We are the hosts of the I Don't Think So podcast, where we decide if we think a conspiracy theory is believable or if we really don't think so.
Here at the I Don't Think So podcast, we are affiliated with Flurry Sports, and we present our theories on your favorite place to listen to podcasts every single Wednesday, even when Emily's not here. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a like and a share, and definitely follow us on Twitter at I Don't Think So _EH.
Beautiful. So we had Emily join us back again last week. We're again here this week, back at it again. And we're on episode number 40.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
I never thought we'd make it this far.
I know. I was like looking at which one we're on because I was like, I feel like we have to have come to a big number. And I was like, oh, this is going to be number 40, which I thought was kind of crazy.
We're 3 months away from a year of doing podcasting.
That's weird.
Yuck.
Okay. But anyway, when I was researching stuff on your trip, because when you were gone, I was like, I want to do something related to your trip just because then it will be like you were here in spirit. It reminded me of like this topic, which I just think is funny. And so I was like, perfect, we're going to do this today. And you recently visited this place. So today we're going to be talking about Mount Rushmore.
Ah, yes.
And I figured since you recently visited it, I haven't visited it since I was a child, like 7, 8.
Yeah.
So some of my memories that I thought were true were misinformation.
Not true.
But maybe you can clarify some stuff for us. And that will help us kind of decide on this theory.
I'm ready. I'm so excited.
So have you heard of the Hall of Records?
I thought it was a myth up until going there, and then they're like, no, it's actually a place. And I definitely thought it was something that was like national treasure.
Oh yeah,
gates, breaking into it, and I was like, that's a bunch of baloney. Then we went there and they're like, no, it's actually back there, and I was like, since when? Yeah,
so I have some theories about that as to why it's there and what might be hiding in it and what is like some truth behind it as well.
Okay.
So I actually thought it was fake. So yeah. I always thought like the Hall of Records or whatever, like cave behind the faces of Mount Rushmore was all a myth. Like I didn't realize that was real. And so as I was reading through, I've seen that there's like lots of different like controversy surrounding Mount Rushmore, the creation of it, like how the land was obtained, like
breach,
all of that sort of thing. So I want to go through some of the history of that first, just so like our stance here at the I Don't Think So podcast is very clear. And then we can get to more of the theories because we are not racist and we're not bigoted. No. Those are things that we want to get out of the way.
We just want you to be well aware of where we're going with this.
Yeah. So specifically, a lot of the like protesting and controversy around Mount Rushmore now comes to how the land was obtained. Specifically, that like the U.S. government signed the Treaty of Fort Laramie in 1868, and it stated that the Lakota tribe was given exclusive access to the Black Hills, and no one would be going through it. And they had like sovereignty over this land for only about 10 years. So they signed the treaty in 1868. In 1877, gold was discovered, and the U.S. government just broke the treaty and took over the land.
Sounds about right.
And they didn't get like any sort of like reparations, to my knowledge, for this. Okay. This is important because it goes back to the theory.
Okay.
So they discovered gold.
The US government screwed them over.
Yes. Okay. Discovered gold, invaded the land. Okay. Additionally, one other thing we want to get out of the way too is that the sculptor of Mount Rushmore has like exclusive ties back to the KKK. So we don't like him.
Know that.
Yeah, we don't like him.
Oh, well, that sounds good. They
Okay.
really like memorialize him there.
Exactly, which is part of the issue.
I always had an issue with it because, again, like these are sacred hills to
Mhm.
Native American tribes,
Mhm.
and we carved 4 white men up there.
Mhm.
I was like,
Mhm.
like I'm not shitting on Abraham Lincoln, but like, I mean, you
He
don't
doesn't
need
have
to
sacred ties back to the Black Hills.
You don't need to have your face carved into him, and it's not his fault. Obviously, he was dead, but like, you don't need your face carved into the side of a mountain that is nothing to do with
So
you.
there's
or
plenty
your...
of other places to memorialize these people.
Oh yeah.
That it didn't need to be in this like sacred Native American land. Now, I will say, to give some benefit of the doubt, like you could probably name any part of the United States
Right.
as sacred Native American land because all of it was stolen. So
Top to bottom.
like I'm sure there's definitely, like, no matter where you would pick, there would be some historical significance to it and it wouldn't be great. So I understand to a point why this was like a national part where they thought this would be a good place for people to memorialize these people. I'll give them that, but you could have also paid them for the land.
Oh yeah, instead of breaking a tree.
Yep. So moving on from that, I'm just going to give you some history of Mount Rushmore because I think it gives a better background to the theory because I didn't really understand a lot of it.
Right.
At least I didn't understand like the actual facts. So you probably, when you were there, heard of the sculptor and the people doing it. So it's his name. I might butcher his name. It's Gutzon Borglum.
Borglum. Yeah.
I know Borglum's the last name. The first name is Gutzon. Gutzon.
They always called him just Borglum.
He's Dutch, so who knows?
I think it was like Gutzman.
Gutzon Borglum. Anyway, he was the main architect and sculptor of Mount Rushmore. He had an assistant sculptor named Ivan Hooser, who was later replaced by Borglum's son, Lincoln Borglum, and he ended up kind of finishing it after Gutzon died. So Lincoln and Gutzon Borglum are mostly credited with the creation of Mount Rushmore. And Borglum kind of dreamed as he was creating this to create like a written description of Mount Rushmore. And the original idea for this memorial included like a large inscription that would cover like be carved alongside the faces and the figures, and it would describe like 9 of the most important events in U.S. history in the shape of the Louisiana Purchase.
Okay.
And they decided that the plan was a failure because the text couldn't be like made large enough to be seen from like a distance, first of all. And second of all, they had to end up like dynamiting part of that to make room. They redid Jefferson's face and moved him over to make room for Lincoln's face. So they decided that this wasn't going to work. So Borglum's second idea was to create this large room within the mountain to hold documents and important artifacts in America's history. So his idea was to place things like the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence within the mountain to kind of be on display for people. So it's designed to be about like 80 feet by 100 feet, and it would be drilled into the north wall of the canyon, so you would enter in behind the faces.
Okay.
So you could like look at it from the front and then walk around and then walk in behind the faces to see it. That was his idea. However, as they started construction of the sculpture, it started in July of 1938, and they started blasting some of these like tunnels behind where they planned to do the faces. However, the construction of this like Hall of Records was ceased due to World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they went back and started redoing some more construction on it, Congress just wanted to make sure that the sculptures were the focus of it and that it got done. So they ended up halting in 1939, July of 1939. And then throughout then, it was like slow construction. And Borglum actually ends up dying in March 6th, 1941. And the work was stopped again. However, they restart it for a little bit, and his son Lincoln ends up finishing it on October 31st, 1941, and they kind of just patched up what they had of the faces and then didn't do anything with this Hall of Records. So they had certain parts of it like blown out, but they never actually developed it.
Right.
Okay. So fast forward to August 9th, 1998, and Lincoln Borglums wanted to carry out his father's dream, and they actually ended up going in and like etching different things on these like granite slabs, putting it in a teakwood box, and then covering it in a titanium vault.
Jesus.
And then putting it covered by a granite capstone. So there's still some records or artifacts within this kind of as a dedication to Gutzon Borglum's like honor. And they ended up putting one of his quotes on top of it. So it says, "Let us place there, carved high, as close to heaven as we can, the words of our leaders, their faces, to show prosperity, what manner of men they were. Then breathe a prayer that these records will endure until the wind and rain alone shall wear them away." And so the archive is said to contain 16 enamel panels, which share the story of how Mount Rushmore was carved, who carved it, the reasons for selecting the 4 presidents that they chose. And it's said to be left kind of as like a record for people in the thousands of years from now who may wonder like how or why
there's faces up on the mountain.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore was carved. So it's like, to me, it's like, so if there's ever like an apocalypse, people discover this, they can give this KKK member some credit.
They could be like, this man totally understood the people.
Yeah. So that kind of gives a like historical account of what the government wants you to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So many have theorized that there's more to the story, and this has been kind of like shared out through different movies. Like as I was looking through, there's probably like 20 some movies that like account some sort of theory regarding this.
The Hall of Records?
Mm-hmm. The Hall of Records, or what else might be contained in there. Okay. So in the movie National Treasure, that's the one that I think of. And it's actually the second one. It's like President's Book of Secrets or whatever.
Yeah.
In the movie, they're looking for treasure, particularly gold, that's hidden within Mount Rushmore. Mm-hmm. So the characters in the movie are quoted by saying that Mount Rushmore was considered a cover-up or kind of like a distraction to hide Cibola, which is the 7 cities of gold. So have you ever heard of that?
Only from the movie.
Okay, so what I found interesting, we actually studied this in 3rd grade this year.
Wow.
So a lot of early European explorers were told that there's these 7 cities of gold that they called Cibola, and many of them came over to what is now the United States, North America, specifically in search of these cities of gold. And they're told that they would that everything was made of gold, roads were paved of gold, everyone wore gold armor. Like they said, it's this
heavy that would be.
Yeah, like they said, like everything is just filled with gold. Okay, so one of the most famous or recognized people to search for this is the Spanish conquistador Francisco Vasquez de Coronado. And he went searching throughout modern day the United States looking for these cities of gold with no luck. So myth states that this city of gold, or the Cibola, is hidden within the mountains. Because we know that there's like Black Hills gold. There's lots of gold naturally within these parts. Right. And like myth says that the Lakota tribe was hiding it within these mountains. And so when this U.S. government signed this treaty, they didn't necessarily know it, but as they're investigating certain things, they found this city of gold.
Sure.
And that's why they took over all this land from the tribe, and ruining their treaty, they decided to try to cover this up by creating these sculptures to make people be like, isn't this fancy?
Nice memorial.
But then never actually go beyond that. So that's the theory.
That's crazy. Honestly, I just have so many questions of like, why there? And like, what would be even in there? You know, like it's not like you're putting the Constitution in a mountain
Right.
cave. Like,
right.
And I want to know who's the park ranger who has to like guard the door of that.
I know. So I think it's interesting, and I wonder with like this like new memorial within the 90s if they kind of like took some stuff out and like covered it up and then that was it.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily there now, but like at the time that was their intention. I don't really know.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever, you know, it makes me think of the movie El Dorado.
Mhm.
I don't know if I necessarily believe there's like a city anywhere that's just like made of gold.
No.
Just the amount of effort and work it would have required to me is just out of the realm of probable possibility. So I don't think they're hiding Cibola, but I have full like belief that there is something in this Hall of Records
that they don't want us to access.
that they do not want you to have access to. And it's not just like, ooh, it's important documents and papers. It's probably like a nuke, you know?
Well, and what I think is odd is like if you want people to find it thousands of years from now, why are you putting it in a vault that people can't, like how are they going to access that?
Well, and what's the point, I guess, of like, I'm putting it in a box, and in that box, I'm going to cover it in metal, then cover it in stone, and then hope that in thousands of years, when there's nobody there, someone is going to be like, I'm going to walk up behind these faces and then find a lump at that point.
They're banking on them speaking English. Let's just start there.
Christ. Oh no.
The privilege.
They'll speak English, it'll be just fine.
Yeah. Like I think of like back to like our Georgia Guidestones episode, they at least put it in many languages. Like it might not be every single language there is, but at least there's a better chance of them speaking one of them. Here, they just put it in English.
And said, this will be great.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to love this. The whole Mount Rushmore experience, will I say, like, sure, I'm glad I saw it once. You know, I think it's something that you hear so much about it. I was kind of underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, the faces are huge. I'm not trying to diminish that, but once you look at them for, like, more than 2 minutes.
Like, there's not much else to do. You just go there and you look at it and you're like, wow. And then that's that.
Neato. And then you can go read about, like, how it was constructed. And the fact that they, like, didn't get any money from school-age children is because the yo-yo came out the same time and all the kids were spending money on yo-yos.
What did they want the kids to do? Donate money to this to make it?
Yeah, because they, like, kept running out of funding. Also, did you know no one died?
Yeah, I did see that, which I think is actually kind of impressive.
That's crazy to me. One person broke his legs because he jumped, like, off of it, basically.
Fair. Natural consequence.
That's what you get. But I think it's an impressive carving and sculpture. And I think the Hall of Records has something shady in it. I think whenever you're like, I'm going to create a room that only like certain people can access.
There's something.
There's something in there. And I think you're just making me more curious.
Yeah, I agree.
If you just said to me, like, we keep copies of like court transcripts, I'd be like, oh.
But then again, why?
I don't know.
Also, why do you think people care so much about these people that you need to have documentation? I guess you could look back, and it's interesting to look back in history and say like, oh, why'd you make this? Because we look at other things like the pyramids and we can like guess.
Yeah.
Or like Stonehenge, we can guess why they made it. But unless there's like clear, like written out, this is why we created it, I guess that's kind of interesting.
Again, and it's also like when you go up there now, it's this massive thing, you know, like it's the faces obviously, but it's this big like paved pathway and stairs and this auditorium like built into the side of a mountain. I'm like,
do you use that?
if you're like thinking that, oh, these faces are going to be around for 1,000 years, don't you think like the stone pathway you put in is going to be there too? And people are going to be like, oh, clearly this was something.
So I was like reading a lot too about like a lot of the protests and stuff and a lot of arguments of like wanting to give the land back.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of the tribe members being like, okay, but like, what are we going to do with that now?
Right. There's literally faces blown into it.
Yeah, like we're not going to destroy it. That doesn't do anything for us. And so I kind of understand that argument. And again, it's like, I don't feel right, like making a judgment on whether you should have your land back or not. Like, I don't feel valid in making, like, I obviously have no power to make that decision. But I can understand why they're saying too, like, it really means
nothing at this point.
Mm-hmm. But like some people make a big stink about it when it doesn't necessarily affect them.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't speak for us, which I think is a good argument.
Fair. Also, I had never really heard the story. We didn't go see Crazy Horse, like their statue. The fact that like his story isn't super well known. I mean, it's probably more well known now, but I didn't know it.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily like specifically taught in history classes. Like you might have if you took like Native American history or like early American history maybe, but like
I'm like, I know why we didn't start there, but the fact of the matter is that you have these 4 white presidents into the side of a mountain. It's this big, massive deal, whatever. And then this Native American person who was incredible in battle, like led his tribe with such grace and skill and like humility.
And you got like a little statue.
You got like a little statue that's nowhere really near.
No, it's like in the middle of nowhere.
I'm like,
of course, that's also like South Dakota.
That is South Dakota. But you couldn't like put them near, like
you could at least put it somewhere close. So you could people who want to go touristy visit this. It makes it easier for them because otherwise they're going to pick one or the other. Yeah. And they're probably going to pick Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore over going to see Crazy Horse. But it's like, you couldn't have just put them, like, next to the 4 guys? Why was that such a big...
There's also lots of controversy of, like, if they were to ever add...
a face.
Another face. And, like, who they would add and why. And it's, like, interesting to hear people's... Opinions. And then I also understand where they're like, just leave it.
I also pretty sure there's not like room. Because that was the whole thing they kept talking about, that it's like, so it goes Washington, Jefferson, Teddy, Lincoln.
Yeah, you're right.
And also if you look at it from a certain angle, it looks like Teddy is just staring directly at Lincoln. It's so creepy looking. But originally Jefferson was going to be on the other side. But they kept
messing up.
Not even messing up, there just like was huge defects in the rock, so he kept having like cracks all across his face, and he still has a crack in his face that runs like from his nose to his lip or something. And I'm like, what does that say about Jefferson? I know. It's a human being. But yeah, the Hall of Records, there's something in there. I don't think it's a city of gold, but it kind of reminds me of like Area 51, that it's like, if you're going to be that secretive, obviously you're hiding something.
Yeah. I could see them like taking over the place because there was large amounts of gold within that. Because it does say they took it because of gold. So I could see them having like large enough quantities for them to want to break this treaty. I don't know if that's necessarily like the 7 cities of gold, like myth or whatever, but sure I could see that at least there was enough for them to
be like, oh no, we want that back now. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, good one.
Thanks.
I know. I was like, if I was feeling adventurous and wanting to climb up the mountain, I really want to go see it. Just even like the door.
I know. Well, and I was like, you could at least put pictures out and people won't like go look at it.
Again, I was like, the poor park ranger that has to hike all the way up there just to stand up there for the like 2 people that are like, I'm going to go break into the Hall of Records. What do you do? Spray them with bear spray?
Probably.
Get away from me.
Well, that kind of wraps up our first segment, and that will lead us into our absolutely not segment where we discuss things that we wholeheartedly do not agree with.
Absolutely.
Do you have something first?
I do. So I am a little bit of a trend follower.
Okay.
Like, if it works so well for other people, I always want to be like, well, if it works so well for others, I want to try it for me. So I'm a big like claw clip girly.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing one today. You know, like I really like it. I feel like my hair doesn't break as easily with them. Whatever. I hate driving.
Yes.
With a claw clip in. I like saw this video and it's like, oh, just turn it sideways and it'll be like slink right under the headrest. And I'm like, it doesn't.
Mm-mm.
It does not. It's so uncomfortable. And granted, my hair falls out of claw clips anyways, so I'm putting it up and taking it down and putting it up and taking it down regardless. But I hate the fact that it's got to be down when I drive because I can't put my stinking head back without giving myself a concussion and losing my vision.
Or you have to like sit awkwardly too. Like if it's a short ride, I'll just like hunch weird. Otherwise, I usually like wrap it up in the top of my head and like clip it up and I look crazy, but at least my hair's out of my face and it's not affecting the back of my head. But yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, because I commute now quite a ways, like it's an hour and a half one way. And so I wake up in the morning and I put my hair up in my claw clip because I'm just like, heaven forbid I do anything actually with it.
Mm-hmm. But then you have to sit and like deal with that the whole way.
Yeah, and I get in the car and then I crack my head on it as if I don't remember that I'm wearing it. And immediately it has to come down. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing. I've tried a banana clip.
Did you like it?
It falls out of my hair so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I just shouldn't brush my hair. If I just didn't brush my hair.
Maybe if you tease it a little.
Maybe. But also it's like.
But that's going to look kind of crazy.
I think my banana clip that I bought was too small for my head anyways.
Sure.
So then it's like I got this weird bang in the front that likes to fly out.
Yeah.
But I was really hoping it would work. But here I am, still with my big ass claw clips.
That's a good one. Mine I have is like, I noticed it particularly when I've been to the gym more recently.
Sure.
But just in general, I hate when people, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but they stand like way too close to you.
Oh.
Or like specific, like if they're waiting for something, it's like obviously you see I'm using this machine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You coming up and standing on top of me is not going to make me go faster.
No. It's like that though with everything too. Like,
or like you're shopping and someone's standing right as like you're looking through clothes. Like you have to wait your turn, hun. And they're standing there waiting and they're like, oh, I want to look at that. And it's like, okay, like I'm doing that right now too. So back up.
Leave me alone. Or this was at Yellowstone. We were like gonna eat in the food court there or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there was not that many tables originally. So we were like, oh, like we'll just kind of look around, blah, 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 blah. And then my grandmother, bless her, was like, I'm just going to hover over this group of, like, this was a family, not my family, but like who are clearly just trying to like finish and clean up and do all these things. And I'm like, you do not need to be like
on top of them,
breathing in their ear.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I'm like, how rude.
Some people, I'm like, do not have the social awareness to see that like I'm standing here. Also, oh, holy moly. This is just like, I'm preparing myself. So we're going to a concert next weekend. When people just start pushing into you too. And it's like, the line's not going any faster just because you're pushing me.
Right.
Like we can only get in so fast, or you can only look at this thing so fast. Like I'm not going to rush myself. No. I see that you're waiting. And now that you're pushing me, I'm going to take longer.
I'm going to take my freaking time. I don't know if it was like COVID just exacerbated the issue or what. Because, you know, we used to have to like really separate out in lines and things like that. And now it's like, I know when I'm in like the line at Caribou or wherever I'm at, and I decided I'm going to walk in to get it. And the person behind me feels so close to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I have a bubble.
On top of that, I also hate when you give someone some space and then people think you're just like not in line then and they cut you. Like that happened at we were at the food court a few months back, Dan and I, and we're waiting in line. There was a couple in front of us and they like took some space because as you're waiting to order, people are also trying to walk through the food court. So you're like giving some space so people can walk back and forth. They're clearly waiting in line. Okay.
Yeah.
This family comes in and stands in front of them.
Oh.
And they're like, excuse me, we're in line. And the mom's like, well, then you should have scooted up.
And didn't move?
Nope.
That's the rudest thing.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and then not only are you cutting us, now you're going to order like 10 freaking things and it's going to take us forever.
Honestly, I would have like
if you had been there before us, like I don't mind waiting, but now I'm even more mad waiting for all your food to get cooked when you cut.
I hate cutters. Freaking, what is wrong with you? I
can understand if you didn't realize, but like
as soon as they say it, move.
Well, and most people are like, "Hey, are you in line?"
Yeah.
And if they say yes, then you go to the end of the line.
That's the balls some people have is beyond me. Don't you have any social like anxiety?
Well, that or like, and I was talking about this the other day too with someone. I'm like, I just don't get people that can just be so blatantly rude and like not feel bad. Like they don't care. Like they just did that. They're going to go home, sleep at night and have no care in the world. I could like accidentally cut somebody and find out and never forget for like years.
I accidentally cut a guy in a coffee line in a drive-thru.
How do you accidentally cut someone in the drive-thru?
It was like
zipper merging.
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
And I didn't even realize he was. I don't even know what happened exactly. All I know is I bought his coffee because I felt so bad. I was like, "Can I please pay for the guy behind me?" And I'm like, "I hope he doesn't start like this."
Like pass it forward. Oh, that's the worst.
I was like, I literally was like, "Can you just tell him I'm really sorry for cutting in front of him?" And the lady was like, okay.
She's like, it's really not that serious.
She also got like a small black coffee. It cost me like $2. I was like, I'm sorry.
That's the worst though too, when you start like the pay it forward chain and you ordered like that small black coffee that's like $2 and they're like, oh, okay, I guess I have to pay for the next person. And it's like boxes. That happened to us together because someone paid for us and you're like, you have to pay for the next person. And it was like 3 dozen donuts. I'm like, can I just give you $10 and like
it can go towards it?
Yeah.
I just want to. Also, I hate to pay it forward. I really do. I just want to pay for what I'm drinking.
No one else has to pay for me. If you're gonna donate money to something. Don't pay for someone else's coffee.
Preach.
Well,
cool. I think that'll wrap us up for the week. We kind of went on a tangent there. We're absolutely not. Started at clock clips, ended at line cutting and paying it forward.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But we will see you all next week where I will bring a conspiracy theory that is still not known to any of us. So,
no, we'll have to see what it is.
No, here we go. Bye.
Bye.